Good morning and happy Tuesday, everybody. Hopefully, you guys are off to a good start this morning. I want to talk a little bit about being a creator, being a photographer, and running into creative roadblocks. I'm sure everyone has experienced it from time to time. I experienced it for longer periods of time compared to other artists. I've been trying to think of ways to overcome this barrier. It is common for photographers and artists to experience roadblocks from time to time, some longer, some shorter. We all deal with it. The first thing I found or thought of was change your perspective. Try different angles, heights, viewpoints, such as take a step stool with you if possible to just elevate yourself a foot or two. That foot or two can change your entire perspective. Shooting down or just being able to get, above the crowd. I mean, sure, let me get my camera here. I mean, sure, on the D500 or most cameras that have the screen. Oops, sorry, hit the mic. You can tilt the screen, like this, look up at the screen, things like that. Something as simple as that, it changes your perspective. Also, getting down low, again, looking down at the screen, if your screen can pop out, it changes your perspective. Also, look for compositions that you normally wouldn't look for. What I mean by that is the rule of thirds. You typically want to imagine a grid on your screen, and you want to put your subject not center, but off to one side, and your rule of thirds. So you're going to have, if the person is looking left or looking one way, then you want to have them on the opposite side of the composition. That way, you're not, if they're looking off screen, you're not putting, here's your subject and here's the edge of your photograph. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of hard to put into words. But anyway, just unconventional compositions. Kind of, I take that as tossing out the rule of thirds. Like if you have a flower, let's say, and you typically put it on the third rule of thirds, you can put it center. You can put it in the corner and make it a minimalistic type composition where you have a lot of dead space. See what I'm saying? It's just different. It's just different perspectives that you can try to freshen up, your compositions and things like that. Second is limit yourself. Putting constraints can spark creativity, such as whether it be a focal length of your lens, whether it be, okay, I'm going to do the Sunny 16 rule, things like that. If you're going to use a prime lens or if you have a zoom lens, pick a focal length and stick to it. Let's say you have a 7200, pick a focal length and stay with it. Don't change it, stick with it. If you have primes, just figure out which end of, if you want wide, telephoto, whatever, pick one, go with it, and then try going out and look for perspectives and angles and compositions that really force you to think about when you try to compose your shot. Because if you're not, especially if you're not used to, let's say, you're used to zooms and you're using a prime, a wide angle prime lens or a wide angle zoom, you really have to rethink, well, how am I going to compose this shot? Whether it's, say, an architectural type shot and you have various points of interest that you want to include. So, things like that. Also, another way that you can constrain yourself is go to a favorite park of yours. Go to a favorite location of yours. Sit there. Take 30 minutes and sit there with your camera. And you can't move from that spot. Look for compositions, look for angles that you can shoot from or that you can photograph from that spot. You can do a 15-minute stint, you can do 30-minute, longer, shorter, but just constrain yourself to one spot and see what you can come up with. The third point is study other artists. I have several different photographers who I follow on social media, and I also have some that, I have their works that I look at online. I've yet to have their photo books. One being Michael Kenna. He does a lot of minimalistic black and whites, which I absolutely love. I love minimalistic photos. I love black and whites. And he does an exceptional job of doing both. And what I mean by minimalistic is, let's say you have a big wide open field, single tree, right? Let's say you've got drama going off in the clouds and just the stars and moon and sun lines up. Everything's perfect. The weather, the lighting, the composition, the subject matter, all that lines up. And you find that composition that's going to work for your vision of a very minimalistic scene where you just have the tree and some rolling hills or whatever the case may be. It can be in the mountains, it can be wherever, but it's a minimalistic scene. That's what I'm talking about. But, find other artists and get their photo books or other works of art that you can look at, study, and take, or get inspiration from. Look at their lighting and how they're lighting their subject, whether it be artificial, natural, whatever, or a combination of the two types. And figure out what suits your fancy. And what I mean by that is, if a type of lighting scenario and subject matter, strikes you as that's what you want to go for, study that person's work and find other photographers and study their work and take inspiration. Don't copy, but take inspiration and throw your own twist into creating your own work of art using the lighting scenario that you found that you like along with the subject matter, and see what you can come up with yourself. Also, when it comes to studying other photographers, other artists, learn how they tell a story through the photograph. See, photography is not only about lighting, but it's also about evoking emotion to the viewer, telling a story within a photograph. Learn how they accomplish that. Learn how they tell a story and learn or take note of what emotions that are within you. What emotion is it? Anger? Is it happy, sad? Is it joy? Is it sorrow? Whatever the case may be, take note of that photograph. Take note of the emotions that were evoked because of that photograph, and implement it into your own work. My next one kind of ties into the previous one, or about lighting, is experiment with light. If you're a natural light photographer, and I know there are a lot of people who don't want to get into the artificial lighting, strobes, constant lighting, whatnot. I know it can be difficult. I'm still learning myself. It is what it is. Anyway, play around with lighting. Photography is about light, manipulating light to suit a certain shooting scenario. There's wrong ways, there's right ways. You'll learn. So again, that ties back into studying different works of different photographers to find out how they lit their subject. Also, reading and watching videos on social media to understand lighting better, especially off-camera flash, OCF, and how to use that to really make your photos pop. Also, another way that you can use light in your photography is long exposures. You want to slow your shutter speed down, and during the day you can drag that shutter, and you can create motion. Get down to like 1/30th of a second, 1/15th of a second, and you can really imply motion with your camera. Whether it be, you take your camera and pan it as the shutter fires off, or you can focus on the subject and pan with it. Also, you can take it, especially at night, get yourself a flashlight, LED light panel, street light, whatever the case may be. Slow that shutter speed down, and just use the camera, or if you're going to hold the camera and you got a stationary light, move in different directions. Get different patterns that will emerge from the slow shutter with light. Also, you can put the camera on a tripod, go into your scene, and do light painting, whatever you can write with light wands and things like that. So that's just another way that you can experiment with light. Also, learn new techniques. Again, ties back into if you're a natural light photographer and you want to get into being able to light your subject with artificial lighting, be it constant or strobe, flash. It's learning a new skill. That's just adding a new skill set to your toolbox. So everything kind of ties in together. This one can be a challenge depending on your location, depending on your means. Visit places that you've never been before. Visit unfamiliar locations, new environments, because all that can stimulate creativity. You get a lot of urban explorers, or urbex, right? They go into abandoned places. Usually it's against the law. I wouldn't advise that. I would highly not advise doing that. People like Jason Lanier has done that before, and his work is fantastic. I love his work. I love his editing. He does some urbex, but not as much as some other photographers that are out there. But if you're used, let's say you're used to an urban setting, a city setting, and you do cityscapes, portraits in the city, go to a beach. Try that. Vice versa. Or if you're the city, go to the country. What can you find? Whether it be a landscape, whether it be, photographing country folk, abandoned buildings, torn down buildings, historic buildings in rural America or rural countries, rural parts of different countries. If you're a U.S. citizen and you've never been outside the country and you've got the means, go pick a country, go to a different country. Really, explore an unfamiliar location. That just opens up a whole new can of worms right there. So that's on you. But it's something I wouldn't mind trying. Collaborate with others. Get with other photographers. A simple photo walk. Organize a photo walk in your location if possible, and talk with them. You're going to have photographers of various experience levels, from beginner all the way up to expert, professional, and collaborate with them. Talk with them. Share experience, learn from one another, get new technique ideas, new advice that you didn't have before. All of that can then spark creativity and help you get past this creative roadblock that we've been discussing. This one, break the routine. It kind of goes with, all the other points I've talked about, is you're stepping out of your comfort zone. So if you're a portrait photographer, right, and you're asked to shoot a wedding, photograph a wedding, take that chance. Take that job. Do it. You got the skill set for portraits. And it's not much different. It's a lot more stress because it's a longer photo shoot. There's more involved. You have your detail shots, your wide shots, your environmental shots, your bride and groom shots, your family shots, the first kiss shot, everything like that. So you really need to be on your A game when it comes to wedding. But if you're a portrait photographer and someone asks you to photograph their wedding, take it if possible. It's stepping out of your comfort zone, right? And that can go for any genre in photography. If you're used to, doing landscapes, do something with people. You may like it. You may not. You won't know unless you try. Again, it's just trying to break that creative barrier. So if you're stepping out of your comfort zone, it really forces you to slow down and think to make sure you're getting things right. This is a no-brainer. Carry your camera everywhere, whether it be on a smartphone, preferably your DSLR or mirrorless camera, even a point-and-shoot, bridge camera, whatever. As long as you have a camera on you, because one, you never know when a good shot's going to present itself, you'll be ready. Two, you come upon a scene that you think could be worthy, photojournalistic worthy, editorial worthy, that you could submit to the media to get that story out there. That could be an exclusive story that you just stumbled upon, or whether it be a scene that will never be repeated. You never know. So carry a camera with you. Lastly, reflect and revisit your old work. It could be work from last year, 5 years, 10 years, last month, whatever. And this goes for not only photography, but it goes for your old editing work. You can look back in your editing and see if you're all over the place, and and see if you can really narrow down your own personal editing style. There's a lot of photographers who have their own specific style of editing, and even photographing. There's a photographer, I believe his name is Daniel Ventnor. He primarily shoots with Nikon, and his lens of choice is the 200 f2, whether it be the AFS or the old AIS manual focus. You can pretty much tell his work because he's got that look along with his editing. So with the lens that he chooses and his editing style, you can pretty much peg his work down when you come across it before you even see the name. So revisit your own work, revisit your photography, and reflect on what you were thinking that day, the angle, the lighting, everything. Reflect on it and if it's a scene that you like or a subject matter that you like. Let's say you find flower, whatever, floral, and you photographed it at noon. Revisit that scene in the morning or in the evening when you have that golden hour or that blue hour. Just that different lighting situation in the same scene could dramatically change that entire photograph. Now, it's not possible for every photograph that you have that you can go and re-photograph the scene with various weather patterns, various lighting conditions, and things like that. But reflect on it and see if there's improvements that you can make after studying the works of others, after looking through all your work. See if there's some consistency across your photography, and then also look and see if there's consistency across your editing style, because you don't want to be all over the spectrum when it comes to editing. You don't want to have selective color. You don't want to have high contrast black and whites. You don't want to have low contrast. You don't want to have black and whites. You don't want to have high contrast colors. You don't want to have muted colors. You don't want this. You don't want that. Unless the scene or the vision that you have in your head, you come across a scene, let's say in a forest, and you think that instead of vibrant colors, you want to mute it. That's fine. But make it a series. You know what I'm saying? So if you're going to come across, and I'm digressing here. So if you come across, a forest, or you're in the woods, or whatever the case may be, and you want to make a series of muted color photographs, then that's fine. But if you've got a muted color photograph here, a selective color photograph there, and you got black and whites here, you got sepias, you got this, you got that, you're all over the place. So when you revisit your work, try to narrow down the type of editing style that you really prefer, mainly when it comes to black and whites and colors. You don't want it overly vibrant, and you don't want it muted, unless that is the style that you're going for and that you're going to make as your own, right? And like with black and whites, there's many different ways you can have black and whites. You can have low contrast, high contrast. You can do just different, high key black and white, low key black and white. You can really crush the black, the shadows, the black colors within the scene. You can really, manipulate the white colors, or the white tones, I should say. So you really need to watch it, especially when it comes to black and white photographs, because there's some that you just crush the colors or the tones and it just doesn't look right. It just looks like a muddy mess. And then you have some where you pull back contrast and you pull back your dehaze and whatnot, and it's just a jumbled mess. But again, I digress. Just revisit your work and see if there's a way that you can peg a specific editing style for your work. And again, see if there's a certain way, a certain look to your photos that you can possibly make consistent going forward. But it's worth a shot. So to wrap this all up, talking about getting past the creative roadblock that we all face from time to time. Just really sit and think. Take notes. See what it is that's stopping you. We all have our own reasons as to why we have creative roadblock. Some are easier to get past than others. So just figure out what it is that's stopping you. Take, the tips that I've given here and see if they really help you. So if you have any questions, drop in the comments. Let me know what you think. And if there's anything that I can do to help, I'll do my best to answer any questions. And likewise, if there's anything that you can add to this conversation, feel free. Leave them down in the comments. Let me know. Hope you all have a good day.